What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Toby. I do random things. And today, we are finishing the Journal 3 series. That is right, we are on part 8. It's been a wild ride. Now, in the part 7, the author, Ford Pines, recounted his tale of traveling through multiple dimensions, and how he was this close to defeating Bill, but Stanley screwed it up again by opening the portal. So, let's start reading. Last night I awoke covered in sweat, and not just because I slept in my clothes. Bill's cipher has decided to pay me a visit once more. Although the metal plate I got installed in my head prevents Bill from being able to access my thoughts directly, he can still haunt my dreams. Last night he appeared to me in a wheat field, cackling about the end of times, and saying I will be powerless to prevent his reign. Our family is in danger, and I have to do something about it. I have been hesitant, however, to talk to the rest of the Pines about Bill, even Dipper, who I've grown to trust. I'd like to believe that this is out of desire to protect them, but if I'm honest with myself, it's because I'm ashamed. What would they think of me if they knew that it was my folly, my hubris, that conjured Bill in the first place? That he tricked me into creating the portal, and that the rift is a direct physical reminder of the terrible deal I made so many years ago? Would Dipper still look up to me, or would he just consider me a fool? No, I need not tell them everything. Just enough for now. In the meantime, I have sent Mabel on an errand to see if she can retrieve some unicorn hair to protect the shack from Bill's influence. It's a long shot, but it's worth a try. I'm very worried Bill might try to play tricks on Dipper's mind. In order to prevent this, I've decided to employ one of my old devices, the Mind Reader. I hope to encrypt his thoughts to Bill-proof his mind. Stray thoughts I notice in Dipper's head. I'm itchy. Why am I always itchy? Will I be itchy forever? I hope Ghost Harassers last another few seasons. Stan needs to hide his magazine collection better. I hope Ford's not looking too closely at these thoughts. Try to think of nothing. Ugh, that was something. This procedure takes hours to complete, and when I fell asleep waiting, my clever nephew used the mind reader to see into my mind. My jumbled memories made him believe that I was still in cahoots with Bill, and he defended himself with Fiddleford's memory gun. What a disaster! And the whole thing could have been avoided if I had just come clean about Bill. It's time that I tell Dipper everything, regardless of what he thinks of me afterward. I've told Dipper my history with Bill, and to my great relief, he was very understanding. Luck seems to be on our side today. Mabel has returned with a large tuft of unicorn hair. We have circled the base of the shack with it to create a mystical barrier. Although we were unable to Bill-proof Dipper's mind, this should make the shack and anyone inside it impervious to Bill's power. After our latest misadventure, I realized it was time to tell Dipper everything I knew about Gravity Falls. I sat him down and told him to ask me any question he could think about the town. No more secrets. His first question made me beam with pride. Why is Gravity Falls so weird? The true theory of weirdness. I told Dipper that I'd spent my young adulthood obsessed with this question. Bill Cipher told me that the weirdness in town leaked in from another dimension, but this was a lie. Bill was simply trying to trick me into opening a door so he could claim Gravity Falls for himself. The truth, I explained, was a bit stranger. To help Dipper, I borrowed Stanley's car, and we drove until we reached the town border of Gravity Falls. I pulled a bag of jelly beans out of my pocket and began to explain. Everything in the universe is like a jelly bean, made of the same basic materials, varied in color and flavor, but all more or less conforming to an expected pattern. But every now and then, by chance, a bean comes out deformed, odd, weird. I pulled an especially strange bean out to show him, and then dropped it in the rest of the bag at my feet. The beans began to tumble downhill, but one bean, the deformed one, almost magically rolled backwards up the hill right to the town border. Dipper's eyes widened. I could see him beginning to understand. Why had this one bean rolled uphill? The reason? Gravity Falls is a weirdness magnet. Oddness is strangely, mysteriously down to this place. From misshapen jelly beans to gnomes and fairies and dinosaurs, interdimensional terrors, clones, crazy ex-presidents, even men with 6 fingers and boys with strange birthmarks. I explained that I felt in my bones that my arrival at this town and perhaps Dipper's too, was not an accident, that we were part of some greater fate that this town had in store for us. You and I are some of the strangest beings this town has ever seen, Dipper, I told him. Mason, he blurted out. He seemed shocked by what had come out of his mouth, and then deliberately repeated it. My real name is Mason. Dipper is just a nickname. But everyone got used to it, and now it feels too late to tell everyone the truth. And it's kind of a dumb name anyway. Don't tell anyone. I tousled his hair and smiled at him. Your secret's safe with me, Mason, I said. And I think it's a great name. The Masons are a great secret society, you know. He smiled. I realized how much he trusted me, and what a shame it was that he was leaving at the end of the summer. I began to form an idea. The rift containment unit is cracking! I suggested it would be a good time for Stan to take the kids on that road trip he's been talking about, while I puzzle over this problem. If the unit breaks, all the madness of Bill's nightmare dimension will come spilling into ours. In order to seal the rift for good, it is going to take an adhesive of unearthly strength. I must return to Crash Site Omega, although I suppose there's no longer any need for that coy nickname invented in my youth. Since my nephew has decided to share his secrets with me, then I shall share mine as well. As I referenced in Journal 2, there is an enormous extraterrestrial craft buried under the Valley of Gravity Falls. The enormous scale of the entire interior would be impossible to capture on these pages, but here are a few of the more intriguing aspects of the ship. In my long dimension-hopping life, I've only encountered one creature that could possibly drive the ship. Oh, wait, nope, I read that wrong, sorry. There's a skeleton right here. In my travels, I've only found one creature that matches this skeleton shape. The pan-dimensional beings of Trisolix Beta. Since they exist in 7 to 11 dimensions at once, they have a horrible sense of direction. No wonder the ship crashed. A ship this big has not only climate control, but also actual full-blown weather. I spotted levers for sunshine, rain, and even snow. Not sure what the tornado button is for. Maybe a quick way to wipe out the crew in case of a mutiny? Having an alien ship under the town has caused many odd disturbances. Stoplights that don't work properly, electrical interference, sick livestock, and occasional stories of vehicles being magnetically hurled off roads. A heavily guarded biological containment center apparently once housed eggs and larvae of other species discovered on alien worlds. Although judging by the claw marks and shattered glass, it seems likely that something escaped. Of course, I doubt that I will have time to show any of this to Dipper on his first trip to CSO. We'll need to retrieve alien adhesive, and I'm thinking of discussing my apprenticeship offer with him this afternoon. If luck is with us, the security system is still defunct. The worst has happened. Bill has been let loose in our world. I do not know who got a hold of the rift or who Bill deceived, but right now it does not matter. There is very little time to write, but I feel it necessary to quickly summarize our plan in case we fail and it falls to others to fight this beast. I have only one charge left on my quantum destabilizer, the weapon that required Parallel Fiddleford's brilliance to complete. If all goes according to plan, we will use it to destroy Bill. It should transform him into a weirdness black hole and suck all the strangeness from the nightmare realm out of our own world. But only a direct hit to the center of the body will work. I pray that if we fail, others will take up this fight. The fate of the world, the fate of the entire universe depends on it. This may be the last time that I write in this journal, or any journal ever again. I know I have made many mistakes in my life, but I pray that I can finally make things right. Whew. Blank pages. August 25th. Dipper here. I can't believe I'm holding this book in my hands. I saw Bill burn all 3 journals right in front of me. But this morning, Seuss found the journals lying in the woods, unharmed. Apparently, defeating Bill didn't just de-weird the town, it also restored many of the things he destroyed, including the journals. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me start over. 1. Bill came out of a rip in the sky and took over Gravity Falls. 2. Bill captured Ford and turned him to gold. 3. Bill tried to trap Mabel in a mind prison and blew up Time Baby. 4. The town banded together to save Ford and defeat Bill, and it was McGucket who figured out how. True, his solution to every problem is build a giant robot, but this time he was on our side. I don't know if he's gotten saner or crazier, but either way, he's become a bona fide hero, and made the rest of us heroes in the process. No one else could have dreamed up the Shacktron. The robot's fighting style was inspired by Seuss's favorite anime, Neon Crisis Revelations Angry Cute Girl Annihilation. He kept requesting that we give the robot a gun sword, but we told him that's not a thing. While Candy and Brenda led the Shacktron into battle, our rescue team parachuted into Bill's castle and unfroze Ford. He told us that we all had a crucial role to play as part of the Zodiac. According to Ford, this was a prophecy found painted in the same cave where he originally summoned Bill. Ford had never believed the legend before. Apparently he couldn't believe that saving the world involved so much getting along with others, but he thought it was finally worth a try. We seemed to have all the right people. Amazingly, it even included past enemies like Pacifica, Gideon, and Robbie. In retrospect, it's pretty good we ended up getting over our grudges with those three. Unfortunately, Stan could not get over all his big issues with Ford long enough to join hands, so the whole thing fizzled out and Bill attacked us. We still have no idea what would have happened if we had completed the Zodiac's prophecy. Seuss imagines that the Zodiac would have given us all radness powers. Somehow I doubt this is what the ancients had in mind. In the end, it turned out to be Grunkle Stan who saved us all, by erasing his own mind, with Bill inside. When Mabel and I found out what had happened, I think both of us were too shocked to believe it. And luckily, Mabel refused to believe it. After tearfully showing Grunkle Stan her scrapbook, she managed to spark bits of Stan's mind back to life, and began recovering his memory bit by bit. It turns out that the memory erase effect can be undone through exposure to important images and people from your past, in the same way that McGucket began his road to recovery when he saw the tape of himself as a young inventor. The reason Stan recovered so much faster is that we began recovery while the erasure was still fresh, less than an hour after initial contact. Still, it's taken about a week of intensive scrapbook therapy to get Stan fully back to himself. While the townsfolk and McGucket helped rebuild the shack, Ford, Mabel, and I have been spending almost every minute with Stan, retelling him his life story, feeding him his favorite foods, toffee, peanuts, and bacon, playing songs from when he was in high school, and driving him through town to revisit every spot he's ever seen, and every person he's ever swindled. We've even read his favorite terrible jokes from his joke book to him, and he remembers every punchline. Ford's been working at it the hardest. Seeing Stan's memory erased is the only time any of us have ever seen Ford cry. There have been several nights we found that Ford has fallen asleep on the couch next to Stan, exhausted from a marathon of describing their childhoods together, and from apologizing for his mistakes. Ford even found an old film reel of them as a kid, which he amazingly saved after all these years. There are clips of them playing on the beach, goofing around at the dinner table and pawn shop, and dressing as explorers in oversized helmets to try and find the Jersey Devil. Stan and Ford are downstairs in the living room right now, watching the home movies right now. What? Stan and Ford are downstairs in the living room watching the home movies right now. As much as we want to watch too, we think this is something they should do on their own. They've earned it. I'll admit, I've been geeking out hardcore the last couple of days over having all 3 journals in my possession. Not only did defeating Bill fix the journals, but it turns out that it also restored pages that had long since been burned or ripped out. There's countless pages in here that I never saw before, things I would have killed to know earlier in the summer. These journals even smell better, slightly less like millipedes. Part of me wants to keep the journals for itself. Part of me wants to keep the journals forever as a birthday gift to myself, but I know I've got to tell Ford about them. They belong to him. I just hope he won't be mad that I've kept them to myself this long. Besides, there's no way I can forget the strange creatures and events we've both written about here. This journal was my guide to someone else's adventure, and now it's time I start my own. I've even started my own journal to take back to California. I told Ford that I wouldn't be taking his apprenticeship, and he completely understood. Apparently, he's thinking asking of someone else to be his partner in crime, and I think we both know someone who's great at crime. I'll never forget the most amazing summer of my life, or the family and friends who have made it that way, and I'll never forget the book that first opened my eyes to the mysteries of the universe. This is Dipper Pines signing off for the final time. Don't be mad, Uncle Ford. My grandnephew's fears are unfounded. All I fear towards him is love and pride. He is a wiser man at 13 than I was at 30. He has an incredible future ahead of him, one in which he will hopefully avoid repeating my terrible errors. Looking back on my lifetime of catastrophic mistakes, I realized one great pattern in all my follies. I thought being a great man meant being alone, apart from the crowd. I bristled at the idea of sharing my accomplishments with anyone. I shunned my brother for one dumb mistake, and I shunned Fiddleford for having the sense to try and stop me from dooming the world. Even when I was given a second chance, I still held others at a distance. If I had been able to widen my circle of trust, if I had believed in the Zodiac's prophecy sooner, we might have gathered everyone together and banished Bill before he was able to strike. I just couldn't get over the idea of myself as the lone hero, and it was Stanley who paid the price. Trust no one. What an absurd and paranoid idea. Trust shouldn't be given unconditionally, but it should be given a chance to be earned. There is strength in having the humility to work with and sacrifice for others, a strength I now realize was in my brother all along. Stanley Pines was the man who saved the world, not me. I spent so long thinking he was a selfish jerk, and he turned out to be the most selfless man I've ever met in any dimension. If I'm totally honest, I must admit that he's a hero, and I'm a hero's brother. And I'm okay with that. Thank goodness he is recovering his wonderfully twisted mind, and I vow to spend the rest of my days, making things right between us, if only he gives me a chance. There was someone else I needed to make amends to. My old partner, Fiddleford McGucket. We reunited during Bill's attack, but it was far too brief, so after things calmed down, I went to visit him. Dipper had warned me about Fiddleford's uneven mental state, but when I saw that he was living at the dump, it became clear how deeply I had hurt this man that I once held so dear. He was overjoyed to see me, and we spent hours talking. He was fascinated by my tales of the multiverse, and his probing questions made it clear that his excellent mind had recovered most of its enormous capacity. My feelings of guilt returned when the conversation turned to the subject of his self-induced memory loss, but F dismissed my attempts to apologize. Not only is this man's mind superior to mine, but he is one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. I have found one way to try and make things up to him. During my visit, I discovered a large trove of blueprints. F dismissed them as doodles, but in truth they are an amazing array of futuristic machines, the likes of which I have never seen. I insisted that he submit these plans to the U.S. government. I believe the royalties will allow him to significantly upgrade his living arrangements, and possibly wear shoes for the first time in 30 years. We also talked about our family members, and how his had turned their backs on him when he lost his mind. I encouraged him to reach out to them. No matter how hard it is, everyone deserves the chance of having a family. Amazing that it took me so long to understand this. Before I left, Fiddleford insisted that I listen to him play the banjo. I could have sworn that as he joyfully played, I could see the age lift off his face, and see the Fiddleford who had been my friend so many years ago. I bid him goodbye for then, but I know we will have much to discuss in the future. I also noticed that the Kubik's cube on his death was perfectly completed, and for once, I decided not to disturb it. August 29th. Gravity Falls is back to normal, or at least as normal as things get in this place. And although unusual phenomena are concentrated here, they are not confined to this location. There is a whole world out there that needs to be protected, and based on some strange signals I've seen in the Arctic Ocean, I think a new adventure might be right on the horizon. When Stanley and I were kids, we would often read tales of the Sibling Brothers, about two boys who dedicated their lives to exploring mysteries together. For the record, the butler did everything, obviously. With a new anomaly to investigate, I've been thinking about those tales more and more lately. Dipper is no longer my apprentice, and Fiddleford has a genuine career as an inventor ahead of him. So I think it's time for the Pines twins to join forces again. At least, I hope so. I haven't discussed my deal with Stan yet, but if I know my brother, he will jump at the chance to find money and babes. The path before us is clear, and it looks like this. It is a beautiful summer day. Everyone is packing for their respective futures, but I have found my mind drifting to how lovely the cloudless sky looks beneath the August sun. I've spent too long with my head in a book. It's time to look at the world and people around me once more. But what to do with these journals? They've been created, destroyed, lost, found, buried, and burned, and yet somehow, despite everything, they remain here like a curse I cannot escape. I had suggested to Dipper that because all of the misfortune caused by them, we burn them in the last campfire of the summer. Mabel, Seuss, and Stan all seemed very excited by this notion. But Dipper had a better idea. We burn all my Bill's cipher artifacts instead. So we did. My scrolls, carpet, window, everything I've ever collected with Bill went into the fire. We made s'mores and told stories until sunrise. It was Mabel who ultimately came up with the best solution of what to do with the journals. And so here we are, at the bottomless pit, a mystery of Gravity Falls that I still have never fully solved. Based on my investigation, tossing these journals inside could land them just about anywhere. This may end up in the center of the earth, being devoured by a subterranean dinosaur, or in another dimension, or, somehow, in the hands of another curious young mind, whose adventure has just begun. Perhaps someone who will find secrets in this book that were hidden even from me. And that brings us to you, dear reader. If you are holding this book in your hands, you hold something more than a record of the curious happenings of a town called Gravity Falls. You hold a record of one man's folly and the kindness of a family that saved him from himself. It's never too late to learn that growing old doesn't have to mean growing up. Stay curious, stay weird, stay kind, and don't let anyone ever tell you aren't smart or brave or worthy enough. If you have come on this adventure with us, then you are an honorary member of the Pines family, and your adventure starts today. And if everyone ever gets in your way, well, we have an entire section on curses. Have at it. For the last time, unless we meet in some distant world, this is Stanford Pines, signing off. Well, that was quite the ending. I thank you all for coming along and reading this book with me. And now, there's something else I want to discuss. You may have noticed that all of these journal videos are in a playlist called IrvinCorp Lore. I have an idea. So I have made a project. It's still in the works. But let me give you the backstory. And by the way, this is complete fiction, so don't hammer me. But I work for a company called IrvinCorp Labs. IrvinCorp Labs is trying to better the world with inventions. However, we are fighting a losing battle to another company, Victor Inc. Victor Inc. wants to take over the world. And me finding this book, weirdness magnets was mentioned in this book. Victor Inc. is obsessed with weirdness magnets. Now, I don't entirely know what they want to do with this, but if they found this book, it could be catastrophic. I fear that even reading this book on camera may have compromised me. But only time will tell. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you again in the very near future. Bye.